All right, let's have a chat about music. You know, that thing we all bop along to in the car, sometimes a bit too enthusiastically at the traffic lights, guilty as charged. But have you ever wondered where it all started? I have this image in my head of the world's first band practice. It's just two blokes in a cave, UG and Og. UG picks up two rocks and starts banging them together. Og looks at him deadpan and says, "Mate, I just don't hear a single." It's a tough business, a tale as old as time, really. The critics are always the harshest, especially when they're also trying to invent fire at the same time. But honestly, that's not far off from how it probably began. Music started with the most basic things imaginable. It was the rhythm of our own hearts, the sound of our own voices humming a simple tune. Our ancient ancestors, bless their furry loincloths, didn't have Spotify or a fancy record player. They had hands for clapping, feet for stomping, and sticks for banging on hollow logs. It was raw, it was simple, and it was probably the first ever community event. Imagine the first time someone figured out you could make a different sound by hitting a smaller rock. Mind blown. It was the original new sound everyone was desperate to hear. This wasn't just for a laugh either, this was serious stuff. These early rhythms were used for rituals, for telling stories, for getting everyone hyped up before they had to go out and chase a woolly mammoth for dinner. It was the soundtrack to their lives, quite literally. Think about it. A steady beat could coordinate a group effort. A chant could pass down a story from one generation to the next. It was the original social media, a way to share a feeling or an idea with the entire tribe. No Wi-Fi needed, just a good sense of rhythm and a willingness to look a bit silly dancing around a fire. So from these humble rock-banging beginnings, the seed was planted. The very idea that you could create organized sound to make people feel something was born. It wasn't about hitting the charts or getting a record deal. It was about connection. It was about creating a shared experience with nothing more than what nature gave you. It's a bit beautiful, isn't it? The first ever jam session was probably just a few mates finding a log with a particularly good thud. And from that simple thud, well, absolutely everything else followed. It's a bit like my career, really. Started with a bit of noise and somehow it's still going. Right, so humanity got the hang of banging things together. What came next? Well, we got clever. We started stretching animal skins over frames to make drums and plucking strings stretched over a bow. Suddenly, we had different notes. This was a game changer. It was like going from black and white telly to glorious Technicolor. Instruments started to evolve, and with them, the music became more complex, more emotional. We went from simple beats to beautiful melodies played on early harps and flutes made of bone. It was the start of music becoming a proper art form, not just a way to scare off saber-toothed tigers. As civilizations grew, so did the orchestras. The Greeks and Romans were writing down music, creating scales and figuring out harmonies. This is where the proper legends of music history start to appear. We're talking about the big dogs, the original rock stars, the classical composers. You had fellas like Bach, who was so brilliant, he was probably composing symphonies in his sleep. Then Mozart comes along, a child prodigy who was like the Justin Bieber of the 18th century, but with more wigs and arguably a bit more raw talent. Sorry, Justin. These chaps weren't just writing tunes, they were building entire soundscapes with violins, cellos, and those ridiculously posh-looking harpsichords. These new instruments completely changed the sound of the world. Imagine hearing a full orchestra for the first time when all you'd ever known were simple folk tunes. It would have been absolutely epic, the equivalent of seeing a blockbuster film in IMAX for the first time. The piano, for instance, allowed for a massive range of dynamics, from a whisper soft touch to a thunderous chord. This meant composers could write music that told a story full of drama, passion, and suspense. It was an emotional roller coaster, all controlled by a bloke in a powdered wig waving a little stick about. Incredible, really, and people absolutely loved it. They adapted to these new complex styles because it was exciting. It was the popular culture of its day. Going to see a new symphony by Beethoven was like going to a Beyoncé concert now. It was a major event. Beethoven, by the way, was the ultimate moody rock star. He was going deaf while writing some of the most powerful music in history. Talk about dedication to your art. He was pushing boundaries, making music louder, more dramatic, and more personal than ever before. He was changing the rules, and the world was listening, completely captivated. For centuries, music was acoustic. It was powered by human lungs, fingers, and a whole lot of elbow grease. Then along came the 20th century and a little thing called electricity. And let me tell you, it didn't just knock politely on the door. It kicked the door down, flicked on all the lights, and plugged in a massive amplifier. Suddenly, everything got louder. The invention of the microphone meant a single singer could fill a massive hall without shouting their head off. It was a revolution that changed music forever, paving the way for the crooners and the big band leaders. The real game changer, though, was the electric guitar. Goodness me, the electric guitar. It took this lovely, gentle instrument and turned it into a roaring beast. Suddenly you had bluesmen in America, making sounds that were gritty, raw, and full of soul. People like Muddy Waters and B.B. King were bending notes and making their guitars weep and wail. This new sound was a bit dangerous, a bit rebellious. It wasn't the polite music of the concert hall. This was the music of the juke joint, the smoky bar, the late-night party. It had an edge. And the kids, well, they couldn't get enough of it. This new electric sound gave birth to rock and roll. A young fella named Elvis Presley started shaking his hips and the world went absolutely bonkers. He took that electric blues sound, mixed it with a bit of country and served it up with a side of superstar charisma. The older generation was horrified, which is always a brilliant sign that you're onto something special. This wasn't just a new style of music, it was a cultural shift. It was about youth, freedom, and a whole lot of noise. The acoustic guitar was for campfires, the electric guitar was for starting a revolution, and with electricity came recording. For the first time, a musical performance wasn't a one-time event. It could be captured on vinyl, duplicated, and sent all over the world. You could have your favorite artist in your living room. This created a completely new relationship between musicians and their fans. It allowed trends to spread like wildfire. A sound that started in a small studio in Memphis could be heard in Liverpool or London just weeks later, inspiring a whole new generation of kids to pick up guitars and make their own glorious racket. The party had officially started. So, the stage was set. We had loud instruments, we had recording studios, and we had a whole world of teenagers desperate for something to call their own. Then, 4 lads from Liverpool walked on stage, and everything exploded into what we now know as pop music. The Beatles weren't just a band, they were a phenomenon. They combined incredible songwriting with charm, wit, and haircuts that drove parents mad. They showed that a pop group could be clever, experimental, and wildly popular all at once. They basically wrote the rule book for every pop and rock band that followed. From there, music splintered into a million different styles. You had the psychedelic rock of Jimi Hendrix, who played the guitar like he was from another planet. You had the soulful anthems of Motown, with legends like Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye. Then came disco, punk, new wave, hip-hop. It was a whirlwind. Each new genre was a reaction to what came before, a new tribe with its own fashion, its own attitude, and its own beat. People found their identity in the music they listened to. Were you a punk with a safety pin through your ear, or a disco diva in sequins? Your record collection said it all. Then technology went into overdrive. Synthesizers, drum machines, and computers meant you didn't even need a traditional band anymore. You could create whole new worlds of sound in a studio. This led to electronic dance music, or EDM, where the DJ became the new rock star. People like Daft Punk or Fatboy Slim could make thousands of people dance in a field with just a set of turntables and a laptop. The sound moved from instruments you hold to sounds you build. The Caveman's rock had become a digital beat, but the goal was exactly the same: to make people move and feel something together. So, where does it go from here? We've got pop superstars like Beyoncé and Taylor Swift, who are more than just singers. They are global brands who command legions of fans. We've got algorithms that predict what music we'll like next. Maybe the next big thing will be music composed entirely by AI or concerts held in virtual reality. Who knows? But one thing is for certain: as long as we have hearts that beat and feet that tap, we'll keep finding new ways to make noise. And I, for one, can't wait to hear what UG and Og would have thought of a thumping EDM bass drop. They probably would have loved it.